hills of Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, October 6th. The LA Galaxy 2-1 losers to Dallas over the weekend. The Galaxy suffering now the worst season in LA Galaxy history. We know that because even if they get the maximum number of points, they cannot surpass 32. They can only go to 30, and so that means that they will have that record. They also didn't get a single road win the entire season. Does that make them the worst? Well, if you were here for about the 25 minutes of complete technical failures, you already know the answer to that. But if you're just joining us right now on this podcast, which is polished, pristine, and ready to rock and roll, then you are in for a surprise as I get ready to tell you. The Banda is not here. I know you'd like him to be. I would like him to be, but I'm glad he's kind of not, being that the whole internet decided to just conspire against me today. So he's off covering the Dodgers. Dodgers playing a little bit late, pulled off the win though, so he's not at least cursing them. I know some of you were concerned about that. So that's what we got for the LA Galaxy. Right now, LA Galaxy on the way to being the worst LA Galaxy team in LA Galaxy history, and of course we are here to talk about all of that. So we're glad that you could join us. I don't want to say that it's something that I wish would have happened or wish I would have been a little bit better at guessing perhaps. But the bottom line is that, the 2-1 score line seemed, one is, if you ever are going to guess, and this is one of those things that, as somebody who's been doing podcasts for 17 years, if you're ever going to guess at a score line, guess 2-1, right? Easiest one. You're going to get there a lot more times than you think you are. But the other side of this is, how much were the Galaxy going to react to the loss against Toluca? How much were the LA Galaxy going to be like, hey, this season's over? How much are the LA Galaxy going to sort of be putting stuff into the understanding that, 2026 starts now? 2026, hey, the pressure is already mounting. I see people wanting, Greg Vanney's head and everything like that. Listen, the pressure was softened, and quite honestly, I guess I predicted that in a different way than maybe I would have done it. But along the same lines, the pressure was softened for this season, the injuries and everything else. Now, Vanney's had similar seasons to this in Toronto where, they went out and had a really good year, and then they went to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And had a deep run in that for Toronto, but they never seemed to get started in the league. So a little bit different situations in terms of how they do it. But certainly the pressure is there on Greg, and it's going to be on Will Kuntz as well. The pressure now, which is kind of funny, we can say the pressure is higher now than it has been almost at any point at the season, even during maybe the 16 or 17 games. I know you guys think that's crazy, but the bottom line is the pressure isn't so much whether or not Vanney stays, because we know he's staying at least until next year, right? The pressure is to get it right at the beginning of 2026, because if you don't, then people will lose their jobs, right? And mostly that's Greg Vanney. And again, I think people are worried about the 3-year contract. We'll see how that's structured. I would imagine that it's still structured in a way that the LA Galaxy don't end up paying all 3 years, but maybe they do. Maybe there's more impetus for them to sort of have that going. But bottom line is that with this offseason already started, I mean, yes, there's 2 games left. With the offseason already started, the pressure is extremely high on Greg Vanney, on the entire technical staff there, on GM, Will Kuntz, And now they have to start figuring out who they're going to keep, how they're going to do it, and what does that look like in 2026 to make them a competitive team. Because the bottom line is that if you look at Vanney's overall record through all the seasons and all that stuff, it gets torpedoed by this year, really, because otherwise it's actually not as bad as people think it is, but it's still not like it's this glowing, sign of amazing soccer and play and all that fun stuff. So that's sort of where I put everything right now, is just that there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I think you're going to see that pressure manifesting itself early in the offseason, and then the LA Galaxy have a game on February 3rd, 5th that they're playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup that we already know about that. So really interesting to sort of see that and how it goes. Adam talks about $5 shootout for the first time in their franchise history. Galaxy go winless on the road in one of the worst seasons ever compared to the 2017 season. 2003 also didn't win a game on the road. A little bit different circumstances, still made the playoffs that year, strangely enough. And we can actually go and look at the points per game. So if you want to say the worst away LA Galaxy team ever, it's technically not true. This 2025 LA Galaxy team finished at 0.41 points per game. Oh, awesome. So much fun. And the 2003 LA Galaxy finished at 0.40 points per game. So technically, this is a better road team than the 2003 road team, and nobody wants to make those designations right now, right? Nobody wants to sit there and try to parse hairs here. But I'm telling you by the stats of what that looks like. Okay. We're going to try in a little bit here to have Steve from AFJAE come on, because it's Central American Heritage Night, and Steve wanted to give us some updates on some stuff. And so as soon as he's ready, we'll get him on here. Of course, I have to do producing and podcasting all by myself tonight, so that's fun as well. Again, we can go over some of the teams and stats before we even look at some of the other things, but the thing, why don't we just jump ahead to something that was just sort of popped up and got kind of goofy. I want to tell you, I have been hearing rumors of a possible November friendly. Then AXS, the ticketing system that the LA Galaxy obviously part of, AEG owns, AXS put out a LA Galaxy versus Cruz Azul on Saturday, November 15th, 2025, Dignity Health Sports Park. And they said that tickets were going on sale. I've been told by the LA Galaxy that this was sent out in error and the link has been removed. No tickets are for sale, but the club remains interested in trying to organize a postseason friendly, but there is no confirmation of teams or timing. That is from the LA Galaxy. So that is where we see... that's where we sort of see perhaps there is something. I still think that this whole thing, where there's smoke, there's fire on this. And I think that this is going to be something the LA Galaxy are going to try to do. I was talking with Panda about it today. He was texting and he goes, man, it kind of screws over the foreign guys. Don't you think? Like, all the guys who want to go home and sort of have the season go behind them and head back to, their different countries and all that sort of thing. I think that that's something that you would want to see a little bit. The international players are like, hey, can we get out of here? Cause we've been here and this whole, season sucked, and we'd like to go. For the most part, teams are under contract until December 31st. I imagine the CBA allows for friendlies, whether or not the timing of those is important or not. But it's still something to see. And maybe you're even going to see somebody like Ricky Puig playing in there, because technically the roster rules will be out the window as well. So those are the things that we're sort of watching as we go. Now, to me, the Dallas game was interesting. Only because it very much felt like the beginning of the season. No Gabriel Peck, so you're down to one designated player. Joseph Paintel's out there trying to run the show by himself. It was flip-flopped with Peck being the lone designated player for a little while. And then you sort of see this team come in and get a goal up early, Diego Fagundes. And listen, there's going to be a Diego Fagundes appreciation period in the center of this podcast somewhere. And when we get there, you will know. But for a guy who is a veteran, for a guy who Greg Vanney says is available every single day, the only time, by the way, he missed or wasn't available for a game this year is whenever he had that broken foot that he had, and he wanted to play, at least according to him. I talked to him about it, and he wanted to play, but the Galaxy staff was like, no, you can't play on it. You got to wait at least a week or something like that. So that's sort of the guy. You need more, and I'm not saying necessarily in that position at that age or anything, but you need more guys like Diego Fagundes who are going to go out there and battle. And look at this guy. I mean, Jesus, 79 goals, 78 assists, just sort of amazing in what he's able to do. And and year in, year out, do all this stuff. And now you look, and Diego Fagundes has probably been one of the most important, and I don't say that lightly, but important pieces the LA Galaxy have had during that time. So just really interesting to sort of see all that put together and what that means and how that goes about things. But before we get too much further, I want to welcome one of my favorite people for a whole bunch of reasons, but mostly because he's probably one of the busiest, most selfless people that I know. Steve from AFJAE is here. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Pato, everything good, man? Thank you for having me.
It is always a pleasure for me to have you on. I appreciate you all the time. You are a wonderful person, and your entire organization is just one of my absolute favorites. Right up there with, I'm high on the Special Olympics and the unified team. You guys are right there, right next to it, Steve. So
right back at you, man. Thank you for everything you do for the Galaxy community and for everybody that supported us.
We appreciate you, not just for the pupusas, which are obviously my favorite are one of my favorite parts, but just for the way that we get equipment down to El Salvador and see those kids being able to play soccer and wearing the Galaxy stuff down there. I mean, to me, there's no better feeling. There's no better stuff. I know this is Central American Heritage Night coming up on Saturday, October 11th. There are tickets for sale from AFJAE, and $5 of every ticket will be donated to AFJAE if you use the special code there that I'm putting up on the screen. Tell me a little bit about all the festivities that you have planned for Saturday. Oh, hold on one second, Steve. It kicked out, as is normal. It's just my phone. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. No, this is the fifth time that we do this, fifth year. With the exception of the COVID year, we've done this every year since 2019. So it's always trying to build upon the success of the previous opportunity, and it's been really fun being able to collaborate alongside folks from the fan engagement department and other departments in the front office, as well as the supporter groups to put something special together. So, I mean, you want me to get into what people can expect?
Yeah, go for it. Let's lay out the schedule for everybody. You gave me notes, and I was like, you know what, Steve? I think you're better to explain. No, you just have a ton of stuff going on, so tell everybody about it.
It's going to be really active, from the tailgate starting there. Obviously, this is something that started in the tailgate with the support of the supporter groups. We wouldn't be where we are today without, Lars, ACB, Outlaws, and Galaxians, and, of course, the other folks that have always stood up for us and been champions for us, and it's still the collaboration. So on the Victoria Block side, there's going to be a cumbia band and another immigrant rights organization that they've been working closely with. Obviously, with everything that's been happening, all the stuff that's been happening, not just in LA but across the U.S. It's time for all of us to take action in our communities, and we're inviting organizations that support undocumented people and those that are allies of those folks. So we'll have Calif, the Salvadoran American Leadership and Education Fund, as well as Caresen will be honored by the LA Galaxy Foundation before the match. So those are some of the organizations that will be working alongside of us in the tailgate pad before the game. We'll have music. We're going to have Ambiente Central doing a DJ takeover. As I mentioned, the cumbia band on the Victoria Block side. Some treats from Guatemalteca Bakery, and we will be giving away the Where's the Galaxy poster that we've made that features a few different people. You'll see a little shout out for the Corner of the Galaxy on the poster. And
I don't think people will not. One, it's totally undeserved on my part, but I appreciate it greatly. It is a ton of fun. But they had some of those posters just to give you an idea of sort of what it's. Yes, I have seen it. And you guys are going to debut that on Wednesday, right? That's gonna come up. People going to look for that on Wednesday. Yeah,
so people get a little sneak peek on socials on Wednesday, but to get a look at the whole poster, you'll come by the after tent on the Lars side of the tailgate pads. And the first 200 posters will come with a buy one, get one free pupusa combo that'll be redeemable at the fan appreciation game on October 18th.
That's awesome.
So that's just what's happening at the tailgate, and then you get on the inside, right? So,
yep.
We're going to be doing an art show in the Galaxy Park area, Galaxy Garden, where all the proceeds raised by that artwork will be supporting immigrant rights organizations. Again, Ambiente Central will be doing a takeover of the Sounds of the Galaxy with the group Casamiento and all kinds of good stuff. If I'm missing something from our notes, please jump in there, Josh. But also, obviously, we're hoping for a win. Our record for Central American Heritage Nights is 3-1-1. So we're hoping to add win to the column there.
Yeah, this is the time when the LA Galaxy get to break out from being the bottom of the table. This is their makeup game playing against Dallas. It's the one in the international break, which I'm sure threw everything for a loop whenever they had to reschedule that for you guys. So. Lots of fun there. Let's see. The other thing that I'm seeing on our notes, 9:30 p.m. the after party at Extra Time, right?
That's right. So with DJ Linda Nubes, a real dear friend of ours, is going to be doing Extra Time in the American Express lounge upstairs, and everybody's welcome. Last year, Central American Heritage Night was a huge after party, so we're looking to have that again and finish the season with a bang. Again, big shout out to the LA Galaxy for not just giving us a space, but also our partner organizations like Cadesa doing amazing work in Los Angeles, giving people the access to resources that are just so needed right now. So really, I want to commend the foundation for recognizing Cadesa.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a part of all the festivities, but also so much of this goes to help other people, and I think that is, if we could do something as a community as soccer, it's helping other people in different places, whether it's here in the United States, certainly needed now, or whether it's down in Central America or anywhere else. Steve, as always, I appreciate you. Anything else that you wanted to touch on before everybody heads out to the stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, just please bring your soccer gear. We're looking for cleats, specifically cleats and soccer balls this year. Go ahead and bring that over to the tailgate pad. We'll give you a fun poster for the kids and the coupon for a buy one, get one free Pupusa combo that's redeemable the following game. And really just, always happy to support each other and just really grateful, Josh, for you for always being a champion for us.
Steve, you're the man. I appreciate you, buddy. Like I said, the poster is going to be awesome. Wait till you see it on Wednesday. I'll certainly be out there on the socials, retweeting and doing all that fun stuff for it. But yeah, get your tickets for Central American Heritage Night coming up on Saturday, October 11th. Again, the QR code that's up on the screen will help you do that, and $5 of every ticket you purchase will be donated to AFJAE, which is always great. The first 150 tickets include the LA Galaxy Central American DOP kit that's on there as well. So a lot of good stuff, and excellent food, excellent people, excellent causes all around. So happy to help in any way possible we can do it. So Steve, thank you, buddy. I certainly appreciate it. I know you're busy tonight. I know Angel City and you got other stuff to do, so I appreciate you stopping by. All right.
Yeah, LA Galaxy 3 and 3. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, Steve. Talk to you later. All right, there you go, Steve from AFJAE. Again, I'm just going to be like flat up straight honest. One of the best people that you could possibly have. So make sure you're there on Saturday night. Wanted to get Steve in because I know he had some other engagements he was trying to get to. Again, he had Angel City tonight that he was at. He has another podcast he's going on at 9:30. So Rob, did you get him? Rob? It was probably Rob. Rob Jalen's over there holding down the fort, doing the post-game press conference with Greg Vanney after the Dallas thing. Not only do 1:30 games screw up, I think the LA Galaxy, and why would you play a 1:30 game in Dallas ever? It just, the hammer was there, by the way. He was like, yeah, he goes, free corn dogs, unlimited corn dogs, good seats, and his yearly trek to go see the LA Galaxy lose at FC Dallas. Let's dive into this game just a little bit, and we'll certainly do it. LA Galaxy 2-1 losers to FC Dallas, who is their opponent coming up on Saturday as well. So again, it's a home and home because of the rescheduling and everything that sort of went on. That's okay. At this point, the season's almost over, but the Galaxy still get a chance at not finishing last. I know there's people who think that the wooden spoon is locked up. We could even pop over to the Western Conference a little bit. There is the LA Galaxy, 24 points, 3 points behind Kansas City with the game in hand. Should the LA Galaxy win on goals for, let's see, what is it? It's going to be goal differential. Goal differential is the first. The Galaxy would actually jump over Kansas City with a win. Not to mention that they would jump over DC United with a win. Possibly, nope, not quite. They would be underneath Atlanta United as that all goes, right? So looking at that, there is still something to fight for, but do the LA Galaxy want to fight for it? I think I said it earlier, is what kind of LA Galaxy are we going to get? We get a goal from Diego Fagundes coming out early, getting the LA Galaxy on the board. If it's one of those, you scored too early, but you get it in the 4th minute from Diego Fagundes. How many times in his career have we seen him cut to the top of the box and fire away? Again, maybe this is the Diego Fagundes appreciation post. One of the better players to play on the field this year. One of the most consistent contributors this year. A guy who's at 79 goals, 79 assists, even though that's not what it says on MLS, but I keep trying to figure out exactly what it is, but 79-79, one each away from 80-80. And I think if you would have saw it at the middle of the season, you would have said there's no way he's going to get to 80-80. And here's a guy who's put together what I would consider some pretty good numbers for this year, especially for an older guy being put in a position that, and maybe it's fair, maybe it's unfair, but in a position that's going to cause him to work extremely hard, right? And you're putting that onto the shoulders of a guy who has to work, maybe harder than some of the other ones just to try to sort of keep pace with some of this. Again, no spring chickens, not me over here either, but 6 goals and 3 assists for him. In terms of, what the designated players put up, 8 goals and 5 assists, I think, for Peck, somewhere around there for Joseph Paintsel. So for a guy who's making, I would say, yes, a lot of money, but a guy who is contributing and trying to lead the team out there. You get the goal. You get the lead. But I don't think there was anybody who thought that this game was over when the Galaxy scored in the 4th minute. In fact, you probably thought the opposite. Just watching the LA Galaxy all through the beginning of the season, certainly through the 16-game winless streak, you saw the LA Galaxy score first, or you saw the LA Galaxy give up the first goal. You saw them not be able to hold leads. You saw them not be able to sort of see out games, and that has been a theme through this entire season. Greg Vanney called it moments, right? And I was talking to some of the guys just about the inability for the Galaxy to step out and create pressure at the top of the box. This has been a center back problem for most of the year. Whether it's Maya Yoshida, maybe a little slower this year than he has been in other years, but to step up and step out into that top corner or that top area up above where you could possibly see, disrupting some of those shots. You didn't get that in this game. And really that's sort of what it comes down to. Again, you get, not so much set pieces, but balls that are left hanging around, clamoring through the center of defenses, guys not clearing balls, all that sort of stuff. And we can certainly look at the second goal that was scored and say, yeah, Joseph Paintsel got fouled on that. And it was a foul. Everybody stopped playing, including the FC Dallas players. Everybody knew it was a foul except for the referee. And then VAR doing what VAR loves to do, which is just bury its head in the sand whenever it was pretty clear and obvious that there was a foul there. Is it a hard foul? No. At this point, should Joseph Paintsel know that he better stay on his feet because he's never going to get any calls? And by the way, that's sort of his reputation, right? It needs to be better in so many different ways. And the crazy thing is that, and I'm tired of saying it, this isn't a bad team, but certainly the results are bad, and the results tell you that it's a bad team, right? It's not a bad team, but the moments whenever they falter are so many. They'll be in good positions. They'll be in, sort of man-up positions where the Galaxy are like, oh, yeah, not a problem. We have this covered, no problem. And then all of a sudden, there's danger from nowhere, and everybody's like, hey, does anybody want to get that guy who's cutting across the top of the box who's eventually going to shoot? Because professional soccer players can score from outside the box, something the LA Galaxy might want to learn for this season. I would say that if you watch the first half, you saw an LA Galaxy team that looked like they wanted to play right up until the point where Dallas scored sort of and leveled the game. And then, of course, Dallas scores the second one right before halftime. That probably should have done it, but you had the second half where Joseph Paintsel came out. And by the way, Miguel Berry came in, and rightfully so. Greg Vanney mentioned afterwards that he thought that when you're trying to play out of the back and Dallas was pressing, Vanney called it overpressing, but he said when they're overpressing, then you have to be able to look up top and get some balls and be able to relieve some pressure. And Nascimento was missing, right? MIA for the entire first half. Did relatively little, didn't show you any flashes. Yes, he's coming back from injury. Yes, it's a little bit down, but sort of the mentality that you want to see from him, the mentality that you want to cultivate for next season is questionable now. And maybe it's been questionable all year. I don't disagree with people who say that he shouldn't come back. Show me the body of work that makes you think that he should. And, do you have other places? What's on the dance card for Will Kuntz in terms of who he's trying to find and in what position he can put those people in? Right. So maybe you can go out and you can move around some targeted allocation money and you can find, a TAM striker that's going to go up and compete. Maybe it's not long term, but maybe you can go back and use that U22 on a different striker that's going to be more of a project that you're going to bring in for next year. though, there's a bunch of positions that you have to find and put the pieces together. And I think that's where we talked about so much pressure being on the LA Galaxy. It's about putting those pieces together in 2026, but really those pieces start getting put together now. So you see in the lineup guys like Elijah Winder, you see in the lineup guys like, Harbor Miller, Edwin Cerrillo probably going to be there, Mauricio Cuevas on the right-hand side. Can Mauricio Cuevas, establish himself with Mickey Amane in the last year of his contract? Harbor Miller can also play over on that side. John Nelson on the left side, Julian Aude on the left side. Julian Aude on the left side is a U22. So, what are you eventually going to do with this back line? I say this with all due respect. I find it hard to believe that Zonka will be back next year. And I know he has another year on his contract, but to me, I don't see how you can bring him back into that. I will also say that I don't think Dallas is a good team, and Dallas in that second half, really made the LA Galaxy just run themselves into the ground. Dallas held a lot of the ball. Galaxy were looking for counterattacks. No number 9 is killing them. Not having another designated player on the field really hurt them. Just having the savviness of understanding the situation and being in that. And it's not about like quitting or giving up, because I didn't see that, but it is about the mentality of, I'm just trying not to get hurt. I'm just trying not to run so much. I'm just trying not to upset things for next season, because as much as we'd love to believe that players want to lay it all on the line for every single game, nobody wants to get hurt right now. Nobody wants to get hurt where it could jeopardize their season for next year. Everybody knows next year's coming, and next year's a clean slate, right? And so in order to get the performances that you need, it's more difficult. You have to be in a position really for the LA Galaxy to believe that they can win, so that way they are in a position to where they want to do stuff. Yes, is that a horrible thing to have happen in the season? I mean, I don't know. 16 games winless was a pretty horrible thing to have happen. I don't think it's human nature. You would do this at your job too. But some of these guys still seem to be battling for stuff. I certainly saw, a ton of the fight out of Fagundes on that. I think Marcinkowski, again, could really be a great addition to that goalkeeping thing. He tends to be more measuredly aggressive than Mitrovic. I saw him come out a couple times, saw him cut out angles a couple times. There were some nice plays. There was also some bad plays. He tried to clear a ball into the center that he basically gave away, and the ball ends up coming back at him again. But for me, there needs to be just the last 2 games. They're both at home. It's going to be in front of the home crowd, however many people end up showing up to that, because at this point, season's over, right? There's not much you can look at for that. But I want to see a different sort of look from the LA Galaxy, or a different sort of understanding from the LA Galaxy that they have to do more and understand the level that they're going to have to put out these last 2 games if they're going to avoid being, the last place team. And really, that's it. That's all that we're fighting for. That's all the LA Galaxy are looking at. That's it. 100%. They're trying not to be the last place team. I get it. I understand that it's a long season, but the -22 isn't even the worst goal differential, like especially on the DC United side, -36. DC United is, if you watched any of their games, just watch the DC United highlights. They got 2 red cards because they're done with their season. They finished with 9 guys. That's a team who has given up, right? The LA Galaxy at least haven't, but I certainly think that some of them are trying to protect what's going to happen in the next year. That's not great. Nobody likes to see it. Especially as a spectator, and a fan, you're looking at that saying, if I'm showing up, you guys show up, that type of thing. So we'll see sort of where that comes out. But there's nothing inspirational that you can find about, this game. Seeing Lepley come in the 80th minute from Winder, that's an interesting thing just to see that. You got to see some Ruben Ramos Jr., Miki Amane coming in. There wasn't a ton of subs that were going to come in here and change the game. Yamane coming in and Aude coming in, cool. Ruben Ramos Jr., sure. You're getting the young kid some minutes, and that's going to be important if he really starts to feel comfortable in that, because there's another person that you're really looking at. Adam with a $5 super chat said Galaxy have only qualified twice to the playoffs under Greg Vanney. Josh, what are the positions of need in your opinion in the off season? Defense, goalie. I certainly think, and we were talking about this in the Discord, I don't need a goalkeeper competition. I need a goalkeeper, right? I don't need 2 guys to be battling things out. You need somebody who's going to be the clear number 1, who takes over that position with both hands and says it. I don't know if that means the Galaxy go out and look for another goalkeeper. Have no idea. But for me, that position, you have to get something out of that position that you haven't gotten. Now, a lot of the goalkeeper problems are also defensive problems, so you need another center back. I know somebody said, why did we get away from Jalen Neal again? Or why did we move Jalen Neal? And if you watched anything with, you guys would have been so frustrated with Jalen Neal this year. It's not, he was hurt for a lot of this year. He had an appendix towards the end of the season, was out, I think, another 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know if he's back and playing with Montreal again. He might be. But bottom line is he missed a ton of games, and he's missed games before for the LA Galaxy. So this is nothing relatively new. Love Jalen Neal, love everything that he brought whenever he was on the field, but Jalen Neal was not going to be your answer this season. He was injured. So I think the Galaxy need to find a center back. I think you need to find a center back that's going to pair well with Emilio Garces. I think Garces has to step forward and actually be a calmer version, a more veteran version of himself, but still with that aggressiveness. One of the reasons the LA Galaxy are so much better whenever Emilio Garces plays is, one, his recovery speed. So whenever you get in trouble, Garces can usually recover and find his way out of it. But two is the aggressiveness at the top of the box. He will step up and jump out at people. He doesn't like it when people try to take shots across the front. He's fast enough that he enjoys stepping out and causing problems at the top of the box, and he does it well. And so in the games where you sort of saw in Leagues Cup where the Galaxy were playing better, you could see that aggressiveness and sort of how it was. And when you're missing him, you can see that too. So there's a lot of stuff that you need to learn with, the LA Galaxy in terms of how they have to do things. But you need another center back. Maya Yoshida, I think, is a great captain. I'm not sure you're going to rely on him for as much as you could this year. So who is going to be that other center back? Chris Rindolph is going to be in there to be paired with Garces. And I like the younger legs better. But Rindolph had a welcome to MLS moment in this game. This was the game where he was, sort of put on his butt a little bit and shown that, hey, all the great stuff that you've been doing, that's great, but you can't just do it for one game. You can't just do it for 2 or 3 games. You have to do it for 34 games. And so that's going to be a growing position for him. So I think you're sort of there. If it's me, you don't have to bring Zavaleta back. He could be on the coach's side of things if he wants to be. But I think that somebody's going to fill in sort of that third or fourth, center back role, because you're going to start 2, and then you're going to want probably another 2 to be able to rotate through. The Sasha Kljestan always used to harp on, your best ability is your availability, and the LA Galaxy have problems in that, especially in that center back system. Whether it's Garces or Yoshida this year, which Yoshida played every minute of every game last year, so hard to sort of imagine that would take a step back. But Yoshida's there, Zonka is in there. Zonka's been injured. Yoshida's been injured. Garces has been injured. Zavaleta hasn't played enough, and then he doesn't play enough games. That's the end of the train. By the way, love Eric Zavaleta as well. He's such a great locker room guy, but maybe he needs to affect that from the coaching side, because the Galaxy are going to need a little bit deeper depth at that center back position. But they're going to have to go out and find a real center back. What does that mean? You're going to have to move Zonka, I imagine, unless you want to try to move Yoshida, which I wouldn't suggest. But those are sort of the things. I think Yoshida's the better sort of guy you want there as the veteran than Zonka is. But with contracts, and sometimes you have to eat bad contracts and do all sorts of things, Zonka's sort of the one I think that you want to see it. Greg Vanney called him out by name, asking when he was going to, saying sort of he needed to step out and stop some of those attacks at the top of the box. And so I think we've seen that be a repeatable problem the Galaxy have had, is allowing shots from the top of the box. And most of the time, I'm a big fan of allowing long distance shots, because I'm like, go ahead, shoot it from 30 yards out. Just don't shoot it from 19 yards out at the top of the box, because nobody's stepping up. And I think that's a little bit of what we saw in this game. We can go look at the FOTMOB ratings. It was Diego Fagundes is the highest rated LA Galaxy player with the goal in there. Got caught coming through the middle a whole bunch. Also did not have a whole bunch of help through there. Nascimento was MIA for most of that. And then we also had, I think it's unfair, but Painsel's sort of in that 5.7 range, which is not a good score, which is really bad. And I didn't think he played as bad as that rating did, but certainly wasn't. Again, when you only have one designated player, you're going to get you're going to get most of that information, right? You're going to get all that attention. You're going to have to figure out a way to find yourself in. And first thing out of the box in the second half, the Galaxy played a ball through and let Joseph Paintsel run on it. There has to be more of that. And I don't know if that's Maya might say that it's a relegation tactics where you're hitting long balls and you're trying to do stuff. But when a team's pressing you, one of the ways to do that is to put balls in behind, so that way, you have guys chase. And Greg Vanney talked about if Nascimento could have just controlled one and held that ball up just once, then it would have freed off a lot of things. Vanney critical of Nascimento in this game as well. Thought Miguel Berry did a better job whenever he came in, but that's obviously saying the bar wasn't too high because Nascimento wasn't there in that first half. So that was a problem. Marcin Kowski at the 5.8 had some bad giveaways. Still looked pretty in control in terms of his ability to move back there and distribute, but that still needs to be better. And this is a guy who's coming off, the ACL, PCL, like the 17 Ls that he tore in that injury. And so we're still we have to watch to see what he's going to do. I think the Discord was correct whenever we were talking about LA Galaxy goalkeepers. And are you nervous that you don't really know what you're going to get from Marcin Kowski yet? Yes. Are you nervous that you don't know what version of Novak Mitrovic you're going to get next season? Yes. So that's a question mark for the Galaxy. Center back is a question in there. And then the Ricky Puig question, it's sort of assumed, and I'm in there as well. I believe that the LA Galaxy need to have somebody establish themselves into these spots. And I think that Ricky Puig, you don't know whether or not how he's going to come back, how he's going to establish things. So it's difficult to sort of put your finger on some of them. But Ricky Puig is going to be a big key to that. I know that's not a controversial take, but how does Puig play with Cerrillo? And Cerrillo, is it Cerrillo and Sanabria? Like, really, it should be Cerrillo and Sanabria playing next to each other as sort of pivoting 6s/8s, because you're going to have Ricky Puig who goes all over the place and does everything on the offense but doesn't play much defense, right? That's sort of what we saw throughout Ricky's time. So if you're able to establish yourself with 2 6s that sort of protect the center backs as well, does your defense get infinitely better? And if you add a good center back in there, is that something you can sort of do? It's an interesting take. Adam, by the way, $10 super chat. Thank you for that. Adam, Josh, have you seen any free agents that interest you or Galaxy good on outside backs moving forward with starters and backups? Aaron Herrera's contract is up with DC United after this. Listen, there's a ton of players who are up. Here's the problem. Here, I'll show you the LA Galaxy's list. These are the LA Galaxy potential free agents. And I say potential because when there's a pending option, you don't know whether or not they're going to be free agents. It's going to be Brady Scott with a pending option. Christian Ramirez is not under contract and will be a free agent. Diego Fagundes has a pending option. That's one to watch. Eric Zavaleta, pending option. Isaiah Parente, pending option. John Nelson, pending option. Miguel Berry, pending option. So again, who's going to actually be available? I think somebody said that that Bright was on that list from Miami and whether or not they would bring him in. Listen, there's a whole bunch. The bottom line is, though, you don't know who's actually a free agent and who isn't a free agent until all these option declines sort of come in and go out. And that won't start until Wednesday, November 26th, which is the club deadline to extra options and submit the bona fide offers, right? So that's when we're going to know who the actual free agents are and so who's up there. So, for me, just on the LA Galaxies, who are you going to offer or pick up their options? It all depends on the money. And unfortunately, we don't know what that looks like. For the most part, I always assume that options are more expensive than the year before because usually contracts escalate into an upward trajectory. I don't know of any that had a lower contract option. I'm sure there are some, but we never hear about it, about whether the Galaxy are going to pick up an option, and like John Nelson has an option and it's, $100,000 less than it was, then that could make your decision for you, right? That's the thing that everybody I think is looking at Diego Fagundes on is, at the amount of money that it is, the 1.2, 1.3, what does the option look like on that? Is that option $800,000? I'll be honest with this. I do think that there's the ability to quote unquote overpay for Diego Fagundes. I'm not saying you go above the current salary, but maybe you pay a little bit more because you still need some veteran leadership and you still need a guy who can go out there and compete. Diego, as Greg Vanney has rightfully said, is one of the most important pieces to this LA Galaxy team right now. When we talk about the LA Galaxy losing the continuity, losing different things that they lost whenever you lost Mark Delgado and Dejan Joveljic, right, and Gaston Brugman down the center and down the spine, be careful losing somebody like Diego Fagundes, who has the ability to impact games on a regular basis. So that's certainly something that you can watch as you go for there. That's just, and I think a lot of these questions are going to be answered, right? I think we're going to look at it, but I don't even know how some of this is going to work. I talked about the friendly coming up in November. I have no idea whether or not the LA Galaxy are going to play in CVI, or how they're going to play in CVI, or when Coachella Valley Invitational even starts. So we're talking about a preseason. I don't think the Galaxy will report before January 10th or so. I would love to see it sooner than that. I'm actually going to try to pull up my calendar so I can sort of even look at what does January look like. So February 3rd through 5th, that's a Tuesday through a Thursday. Maybe you start on the 6th. Maybe you can start then, but that only gives you 3 or 4 weeks, and then basically you're playing a game. And I don't know how all of that works whenever you also have Coachella Valley Invitational. Most of the time our podcast has done stuff out there on Super Bowl Sunday, so we know that these dates are sort of clashing. So the Galaxy go play CONCACAF Champions Cup and then come back to CVI. I am very interested to see how all this comes in. Somebody asked, is there any talk of a fourth DP? There's always talk of a fourth DP. Will Kuntz said whenever Sophie was talking to him at Galaxy Mania, said that he would try to manifest the loosening of the purse strings a little bit for the LA Galaxy in the next season to come, for everybody, in the league to come. The Galaxy are in better shape in terms of roster flexibility next year. And we've sort of gone over that, but we'll go over that more as we get into the offseason. But for me, the Dallas game and wrapping that up and sort of putting a bow on it is a lot of the same. I think you need to see a lot more from the Galaxy. Adam again asks, $2 super chat, will Yamane be a starter in 26, free agent in 2027? Don't know. And quite honestly, if you believe that you have somebody like Harbor Miller who's going to play over on that side, if you believe that you have somebody like Mauricio Cuevas who can play over on that side, and by that way, Cuevas is different than Yamane, is different than Harbor Miller, so technically it would be great to have all three. But if you believe that you have that position covered, do you move Miki Yamane in the offseason? Because you can. He has value. I don't know if you'll do it inside of Major League Soccer, but you could do it outside of the league. And there might be there might be a chance for some money to change hands and for the Galaxy to still benefit from that and get something out of a contract that will expire at the end of the year. But those are questions that you sort of have to ferret out. I would imagine that Will Kuntz already knows that, or has an idea of what that looks like. I mean, again, it's GM 101 that you have your board up there and you go ahead and you write in different guys and you sort of figure out what that looks like. And you're starting to put your roster together and where you think the needs are. And you've highlighted those needs and you've scouted those players that you think you're going to look at in the wintertime. And as soon as this offseason is going, you're going to start talking to those guys as that winter window opens and you're going to try to figure and plug in those holes that you need to be competitive in 2026. And I would suggest it's not going to be just one or two. The Galaxy will have to move around. And so you'll do some of that in the league. You'll do some of that outside the league. So it's just a matter of paying attention to everything that is sort of going on with the Galaxy and understanding where your weaknesses are. I mean, are you ready? Here's my weaknesses, and I think I'm answering this question for the second time. But you have to find a striker. You have to find something there, whether it's Nascimento and you're sure you're going to bring him back and he's the project that you want to have, or whether that is somebody completely new. Lewandowski, are you going to go for him in the summertime? And if you are, what's going to be your solution for the first half of the season? Again, we're going to get 6 to 8 weeks off from the World Cup in the middle of the freaking season. I imagine we're still going to see Leagues Cup play. The LA Galaxy won't be in it, but there's going to be US Open Cup play. And the Galaxy will probably be part of that. So you're going to have to manage these competitions. You also have CONCACAF Champions Cup right at the very beginning. So that's a serious thought planning out that you're going to have to do, but striker is in there. I think you have to possibly look at another 6, depending on what you're getting out of Sanabria and whether you think Sanabria is going to be there. Again, injury problems this year with Sanabria, and he's under contract, and you have him for next year. But can you trust that? And what sort of MLS, journeyman can you have come in and sort of be able to play that 6/8 that you compare with Cerrillo? How involved is Marco Royce in that? Because technically speaking, when Marco Royce is playing. You're going to want Ricky Puig out there to start the game. You're going to want him paired with, I would imagine, Surreal and Sanabria in the center there, or you find another 6 that you put in there. But then Royce eventually is going to come into the game in the second half. That's how you really want to use him and how he was effective in the MLS Cup run, and you want to try to limit his minutes. That way he has the ability to stay healthy and play. And by the way, him being shut down for the rest of the season is not like any big deal. Like, of course you're going to do that. He doesn't need to play. He has many miles on those legs, so you let him sit and you let him rest. So there's places in here you can do it. But like, let's just say, and again, this is total, just sort of brainstorming, spitballing type thing. Let's say you can get a star type striker. Does that mean you're going to go out and you're going to purchase Nascimentos? That way he could sort of be the understudy of that. But what do you do in the meantime? Because Christian Ramirez isn't coming back, so you're not going to have him as a 9. Not that worked at all. I don't know if Miguel Berry is going to come back. The salary there isn't a ton of money, so it's not like you have to sit there and really sort of panic about Miguel Berry being on the team or not. But he can't, I don't think you can have him sort of be that top player. Do you put up Joseph Paintsil sort of as the 9 for a little while? Do you let Fagundes fall into one of the wide spots like we've seen so much this year in order to help out while you wait for a striker to come? Because we know that after the World Cup is probably going to be a better time to get a striker than maybe in the wintertime. But if you're the LA Galaxy, again, the pressure's rising. Greg Vanney's job is going to be on the line in the first 10, 15 games of this season. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. Now, here's the other conundrum is that I would suggest that Will Kuntz's job, while under pressure, is not under fire as much as Greg Vanney, and usually a GM gets a manager. So that means that it's probably going to be Greg Vanney's problem more than anything going into the start of the new year of trying to survive and make sure that everything starts well. Well, if you're Will Kuntz and you have to play a little bit of a long game in order to get the pieces that you want in the summertime, can Vanney survive that long enough to sort of put that together? So again, Greg Vanney has to shop from the cupboard that Will Kuntz stocks, so to speak. That's always interesting because one guy has, I would suggest, a safer job right now than the others. Now, is that all speculation? Absolutely, right? But I don't think you can look at the wins this year, the LA Galaxy, having just 5 of them so far, 18 losses, 9 draws. They have won just 15.6% of their total of their games this season, 56.3% lost. So almost now over 55% of the games they've lost, 43.8% have been draws. And if you go back and look at Greg Vanney, and I saw a bunch of different things. I pulled this from the MLS website, or MLS with the games played and stuff like that. And, I didn't account for Greg Vanney's suspension game where Dan Kalichman, won the game. That was more an understanding that that was still Greg Vanney coach team. But I have Vanney with the postseason and the regular season currently at 65 wins and 65 losses. This is a guy who is basically a 500 coach. He's gained 240 points total out of all of these things. But, the average position, so in average over his, 2021, 2022, 23, 24, and 25, right? Greg Vanney has averaged 44.4 points in each season, and that would put him roughly in a playoff spot in the Western Conference this year, but the 9th ace spot in there. He's finished on average in the Western Conference at a little over 8th. In the overall league standings, he's finished on average 16.6, torpedoed by both 2023 and 2025. Because I'd argue 13 and 12 in 2021 or 14 and 12 in 2022 or 19 and 8 certainly isn't the disaster it is. But whenever you have 2023 where you had just 8 wins and 2025 where you had just 5 wins, those seasons are going to torpedo these percentages, right? So again, something to sort of watch as we head in. So I would, by these totals, by his finishing, in all the places, say that Greg Vanney is going to be the one who has to worry about it. But Will Kuntz has something else he has to worry about, right? He's also trying to preserve his job too. Not saying they don't work well together, and that isn't an indication. I'm just saying it's interesting. If I go into your house and put all of the ingredients to make dinner, and I lay them out on the counter, I said, "All right, here's your ingredients to make your chicken soup," and you're like, "Well, I like the celery, from over here," and I'm not. Well, too bad. This is the celery you get because this is the celery I bought you, right? That's sort of what happens whenever you have GM and coaches, and as long as they work together, that works really fine, and I think that they do. But having said that, sometimes the GM puts ingredients in there that he thinks is best for the team, and sometimes the manager thinks takes some of those ingredients and puts them over on the shelf because the manager's like the coach is like, we'll see about those ingredients, that type of thing. So that's sort of where we're at with the LA Galaxy and why I think there's so much pressure there. We can go over the remaining sort of charts. I did point this out. The LA Galaxy have 6 points remaining, which means they can at most get to 30 points. 30 points would be 2 points less than in 2017, wherever they finished. This is through 32 games, but they finished with 32 points in 2017, and the LA Galaxy would finish 2 points shy of that. So that does mean the LA Galaxy will have the worst LA Galaxy record in their 30-year history. That being said, there's still a chance, I think, that they don't finish the bottom. And again, I sort of pointed at the standings already and pointed that out. The LA Galaxy at 0.75 points per game will finish, if they win the last 2 games, which is a big if, at 0.88 points per game total. That 0.88 points per game will be the lowest points per game in LA Galaxy history. That includes 2003, where they finished with 1.20. That includes 2008, where they finished with 1.10 points per game. In 2017, they finished, the only other season that finished under 1 point per game was 2017 at 0.94. 2020, which widely I'd say if you played more games, the Galaxy would have fallen below that 1.0, just 22 games in the COVID era there. The LA Galaxy finished at 1.0, but the 0.88 would also be lower than that. So again, by stats, by graphs, by charts, the worst LA Galaxy team in Galaxy history. And there's, again, we can look at the standings, we can look at all the things, we can look at the teams, and I can make a really good argument for you why this team isn't as bad as the 2017 team, or this team isn't as bad as the 2020, but it's showing you right here in terms of the black and white numbers what that looks like. Another thing, looking at the goals projected, so now the LA Galaxy are projected to score almost 45 goals, allow 68 goals. I added 2017 into this chart because I wanted you to go back and see it. So again, let's look at it. So in 2025, 44.6 goals right now, so almost 45 goals. Go up to 2017, 45 goals. There you go. The goals against, the LA Galaxy are projected to have 68 goals against. 2017, 67 goals against. The only time that they've really given up more goals than this 68 in this recent one would have been 2020, which projected that had they played 34 games, that they could have possibly allowed 71.1% or 71, over 71 goals basically. So that's something to watch there as well. Other things that we can look at. I already showed you that one. I showed you that one. I think that's it. Let's look at the schedule now, so that way we can start wrapping this stuff up for you. The schedule now, the LA Galaxy, 2 games. Again, the get this game coming up against FC Dallas, where we know that Joseph Paintsel will be missing because he'll be off with Ghana. That is the one designated player who was available whenever they went to Dallas. So hopefully Gabriel Peck recovers and the Galaxy can have him play. But again, you're going to be down to one designated player. The LA Galaxy will play against FC Dallas coming up on Saturday. And then it is decision day on the 18th, where the LA Galaxy will face off against Minnesota. And Minnesota, if I remember correctly, currently in 3rd place right now. That could determine some things for them, so don't expect that to be an easy game as well. But that will be decision day. That is fan appreciation day, so that might be one that you want to take a look at. Let's see. Let's go to this. This chart comes to us from Tony L. Harbor on Blue Sky. And this was being retweeted and posted around from the guys over at Rob and Ananda are over there. So they were showing this, and we actually had a nice discussion about this. This is expected goals for minus expected goals conceded in game state. So blue is when you're leading, gray is when you're tied, and red is when you're trailing. The LA Galaxy are one of only 10 teams to have a positive this expected goal differential, right? The expected goal differential, a positive goal differential of plus 0.10 when leading. The tops in that ends up being, I think, the Whitecaps at 1.07 whenever they're leading. But you have teams like San Diego, which are real close to the Galaxy at plus 0.12. You have Inter Miami at 0.17, right? Similarly, LA Galaxy there. You have New York City at 0.09 whenever you do that. Here's the big thing, though. And the Seattle Sounders at plus 0.39. The big thing here is that the LA Galaxy look like maybe they've been leading, 16% of the time, somewhere in there, whenever you look at the chart, where you go up to the Philadelphia Union, who have plus 0.15 in the leading category when they're leading, but yet they've been leading almost 50% of the games, right? So ultimately, the LA Galaxy haven't led enough in these games for that to be a real decision maker. And on the flip side, when the game is tied, the LA Galaxy have one of the worst. In fact, I think it is the worst. Looking at it real quick, the worst goal differentials, expected goal differentials at minus 1.12 when the games are tied. And this is what we saw with 22 games where they've allowed the first goal, is that the LA Galaxy, when they're in a tied state, have an ability to not influence the game enough. And therefore they give up goals, right? They're giving up more than one goal whenever the game is tied. So in that tied state, the LA Galaxy more often than not would find themselves in trouble. The really surprising thing is if you go over to the trailing side of things and they're just barely under, the zero, at minus 0.14, right? So, but the problem is that red bar and the tied bar, right, account for almost 80% of the game state. So the Galaxy spent most of their year either tied or trailing. And when they were tied, they gave up more. Their expected goal differential was over 1. When they were losing, their expected goal differential was minus 0.14. When they were leading, they actually had a positive. And again, one of the only 10 teams that had a positive goal differential. So scoring the first goal for this LA Galaxy team was so vital to them. And having the lead was so vital to them, but it happened so little time that the Galaxy weren't able to do that. I think this chart is awesome. Just amazing. It really can sort of explain so many things. And certainly I think it's a good, I often say that stats are for looking at and then seeing if your eyes sort of match. And you can sit there and go, oh, do the eyes sort of match what this chart is telling me? This chart is this matches what my eyes are telling me 100%. You can make sense of it immediately if you watched any LA Galaxy games, right? And again, not trying to pile on or anything like that, but the largest portion of this is with games tied, right? There's Sporting Kansas City has had a way less of a time trailing than the LA Galaxy. But having said that, they have a positive goal differential when they were trying, which means that whenever they were down, there was actually a good chance that they would at least on the positive side of the goal differential, they ended on the other side. So if let's see, 0.14. I'm not good at math, but if they were trailing 9 times, then 5 of those times they may have scored a goal to actually come back, and the 4.9 times they had it. That's the sort of the differentials right there. But at least they were splitting. The LA Galaxy, were sort of in that split too, but it because they were in those game states so often, they weren't in that leading side of things. They didn't have a lot of success. So that's where his thing. I just thought it was an interesting chart, and I always like to share that with you guys. To close things out, the LA Galaxy again taking on FC Dallas, 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, October 11th. This is the makeup game. It is in the international window. The LA Galaxy will be missing, as far as I know, Joseph Paintsil. There were some younger players who got called up into some different situations there, but we haven't seen all of that go through. I would imagine Harvard Miller, who could have possibly been called up, or Ruben Ramos Jr., who could have also been called up, will stay because they're getting senior team minutes right now, and that's more important to their career at this point than that. So that's sort of where we sit with the LA Galaxy, wrapping everything up. Again, if you stuck around and hung in there with us as we struggled through all the audio stuff and everything that's going on, we appreciate you. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I'll probably end up trimming this, which might mean the live chat goes away, but you know what? That is what it is. It's the way the season's been going. But just 2 games until the LA Galaxy break. We'll keep you updated on any of the stuff that we see from the friendly side of things, if that ends up breaking through. So maybe you have one more extra game, and who knows, sort of what that looks like, whether that's closed door, or whether it's like everybody show up and enjoy the off-season game that doesn't count. But with Ricky Puig possibly coming back, don't you want to be there for that? So again, there's some things to sort of pay attention to and to look at, but we will watch as that goes through. All right. I think that's it. I want to thank everybody who hung in there. We certainly appreciate all of you. The Panda, maybe he'll be back. Maybe he won't be back. Just depends on what the Dodgers do. Maybe the Dodgers are going to win a World Series. Why not, right? Certainly something to look forward to in Los Angeles if that is the case. But they're playing well and at least got the win tonight. So Kevin might be covering that. On Thursday night, we'll see which one of my co-hosts want to hop in here and get you ready for this FC Dallas game. I'd love to have the hammer on because he was there. Got a great picture with Diego Fagundes, by the way. So shout out to Diego for snapping a picture with the hammer in Dallas, with Hammer there and his youngest eating the corn dogs in the 11,000. What is it, like 11,004 people is the sellout in Dallas right now because half the stadium's closed off. But he says it's our monthly trip to the stadium, or our yearly trip to the stadium where we watch the LA Galaxy lose to Dallas. I think now it's been 10 years since the LA Galaxy have had a win in FC Dallas. So yeah, certainly one of those things. I think that'll do it. Anything else? Anything anybody have? Going once, going twice? All right, good. We'll see, hopefully, that we can get all the audio stuff fixed for the next time, and it's a lot smoother for everybody. But again, thanks for hanging in there. If you are looking for me on any of the social media stuff, you can certainly look at that at Galaxy Podcast. Cornerofthegalaxy.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. Or anything else we'll put up there on cornerofthegalaxy.com. And then, of course, go to, Apple Music for your podcasts. Go to SoundCloud. Go to Spotify. All those places. Most places you can find us. And just type in Corner of the Galaxy. We will, of course, once again, be back on Thursday to get you ready for Dallas. Big shout out to Steve from AFJAE and Central American Heritage Night coming up on Saturday, October 11th. Again, click on the QR code if you want to get some of those tickets, and $5 of every ticket will be donated to AFJAE, one of my favorite organizations. Can't support them enough. It should be a good time at the stadium. Always good to see live soccer. One of the best things in the world. So hopefully we'll see you out there on Saturday night. Enjoy seeing everybody when we get there. All right. For Mr. Kevin Panda Baxter, who is off with the Dodgers, for Steve from AFJAE, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.